Hey, this is Mr. Hargesheimer. I'm here with my friend Ingrid, who is going to be helping me out today.
Daughter.
Daughter, Ingrid. She would like to start off by saying hello to everybody.
Hi.
All right, we are going to be talking about your week 4 and week 5 assignments. We're going to be working on informative writing. Those of you who have already started on the social studies I gave you on Friday or have looked at this yesterday when I posted it will know that informative writing is when you explain. We're not going to be arguing like we usually do. We're just going to be giving an explanation or an analysis or somehow just illustrating a point. The purpose or the key to this is making sure that you're making things clear for the reader. You're going to use details, you're going to use sensory images. I'm breaking this assignment into 2 weeks. So this week, week 4, we're just going to work on the pre-writing, a little outline of the main points, and you're going to write an introduction. Next week, we'll worry about the rest of it. Make sure that you are using the comments to sign in. I notice some of you all, because I get a time, are signing in at 0. I'm going to assume that you go ahead and watch the rest of the video after you sign in. But if you don't, you may miss out on some important points to help you out with your work. So the standards we're going to be looking at have to do with writing. You're going to write an informative or an explanatory text, and the substandards or the indicators of this standard we're going to be looking at are the introduction. You're going to introduce a topic clearly. The body, which you're going to develop this topic with relevant details, facts, definitions, anything like that, quotations all count. And lastly, that you are going to write a solid conclusion. Make sure you're uploading these things into your backpack. Ingrid, do you upload things into your backpack at school?
No.
No?
No, maybe. I don't know.
Do you know prepared and resilient learner?
Oh yeah, I do that.
Okay.
But I don't put it on. My teachers do.
Your teachers do? All right. Ignore that because your teacher will not be uploading things into your backpack. But you may upload these things into your choice as always, the effective communicator, which means that you convey ideas clearly, prepared and resilient learner, because if you're writing a clear introduction that has a hook and a thesis statement, and you're writing a solid body with details, and you're writing a conclusion, then you are showing that you have content knowledge. And depending on which prompt you pick, there could be some real world connections. And globally and culturally competent citizen, again, depending on which prompt that you pick, you could be exploring issues, you could be looking at other people's perspectives. So it could be, depending on what you write, any of these. No matter what, it will fit an effective communicator, but there are also a couple other options. So week 4, week 5, or week 4 and week 5, as I mentioned, planning and introduction this week. You're going to identify the type, and I've given you prompts that are already organized into type. So for informative writing, you have descriptive, you have how-to, you have compare, contrast, cause and effect, and problem and solution. And you're going to identify the prompt you will use and the topic. All right. So we are going to talk today about a hook and a thesis statement primarily. My friend Ingrid here, daughter, will be reading the examples for us when we get to them. And then we're just going to have a list of the main ideas that go in the body. I'm going to give you an example of a body paragraph, but this week you don't have to write the body, just a bulleted list of the main points that are going to support your thesis statement. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You excited? Yeah. All right. So next week we'll write the body, the conclusion, and that'll be your final draft. You'll just add those to your introduction. Or you could even just update the document and you start this week. All right. So for your introduction, what's a hook, Ingrid?
1-2 sentences that grabs the reader's attention so they want to read on.
That makes sense. So then you're going to define the topic, provide a little background information. And Ingrid, what's a thesis statement?
1 sentence that expresses the main idea.
All right, I think you got this one. Would you like to see some types of hooks, Ingrid, so that we know what a hook is?
Yep.
Okay, then. Oh, look at that. Types of hooks. It's almost like I planned this. All right. So you could have an interesting question. So if you start off your paper with a question, your audience has to read to get the answer. What's our question?
Have you ever wondered why school can feel like a lot like being in jail?
Now, if you felt that way before, you may want to read the rest of this essay to find out what the author thinks.
Wait, this is an essay.
You can also have, these are just examples, a strong statement or a declaration hook. So you say something controversial or provocative. Provocative just means you're trying to get a response from people. Go ahead, Ingrid.
The real purpose of school is to train kids how to be
Obedient
workers.
All right, so that's kind of controversial because people could argue that school is to make you well-rounded citizens and those other things. But if I start off saying, oh, well, they're just trying to train you to be a good worker, then that might be something that's a little bit controversial. Here's another one. Ingrid, my friend.
It was supposed to be the best day of my life, but it ended up being the worst.
So with an opening like that, I may think, oh, I wonder what happened to poor Ingrid where it ended up being the worst day of her life. And you could also start with facts or statistics.
Almost 60,000 people in the United States have died from COVID-19 so far.
So that's a statistic.
Over 8,500 students a year drop out of Kentucky schools.
Again, these are statistics, and because it has to do with things like dropout rates and things like illnesses, especially during this pandemic, that gives people, oh, I wonder, what this paper is going to be about. I'm already interested because these are things that are important to me. You want to see some more hooks?
Yeah.
Okay. So here are some different types of hooks you could also start with. Metaphor or a simile, which is a comparison, and the only real difference is a simile uses the word like or as, and a metaphor is just a comparison between two things that generally aren't the same. For instance,
getting an accepted gift is like a snow day in December.
See, it's not the same thing getting an unexpected gift, but you get the idea that it's fun to get an unexpected gift, and it's unexpected and fun to have a snow day in December. Do you like snow days, Ingrid?
Yeah, but I just had a bubble in my throat.
No, that's okay. As long as you don't tell anyone, they won't know.
Dad.
All right, there's also a story hook. This one's a little bit longer. This is a whole paragraph story here.
Imagine being 11 or 12 years old. You go to school and play with your friends. Your family is poor, but your parents work hard. Then one day your family emergency, and you are told that you must leave school to work for a short time in a
local factory
to pay off a debt.
Yeah, debt, when you owe someone money.
When you get there, you are intimidated, harassed, and beaten. Every time you take a break or get a drink of water, your pay is taken away. You soon realize that you will never pay off your debt. You are a slave to the factory owner.
Yeah, very nice job. So there's also, and just notice in the story hook, you told a very short story and you're asking the reader to put themselves in the position of this person. So that also gives them a connection to the story. There's also a description. It might give some interesting details about your topic.
Crows are one of the smartest of the birds. For example, crows understand
analogies
and
can exercise
self-control to make tools and like to play.
That's pretty good for a bird, I think.
Yeah.
And lastly is a quotation. It's what someone famous or knowledgeable says about your topic. That one doesn't read right, does it? All right, when you all read this, ignore the word person in there. It doesn't make sense. You ready to read this quotation?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
How long is that? Oh.
This word is proletarians.
The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have the They have a world to win. Karl Marx.
Yeah, that's a proletarian is someone who's poor and has to work all the time.
Yep.
So it's quotation from a famous person. You know, if it's going to be Karl Marx, I'm probably going to go on to talk about the evils of capitalism and why we should overthrow our economic system. So when you kids start the revolution, you remember Ingrid helped. Ingrid, are you going to overthrow the government when you get older?
I wish.
All right. So these are types of hooks. You will also write a thesis statement. A thesis statement is one or two sentences that clearly tells the reader what the paper is about. Clearly is important in this one. And it also identifies the topic and your position. You're going to get your choice or your chance, your position in relation to it. So a good thesis statement focuses and guides your writing. Here's an example of good and bad ones. We'll start with bad, and the bad ones will be in blue because it's because of Kentucky and we don't like blue. We like red.
Yeah,
Go Cards. So here's a bad example.
Bad. Everyone should exercise.
All right, hang on for the italicized part. So this is the everyone should exercise is the bad thesis statement. And this part where the italics, where the letters are slanted, that means that those are the reasons. Why should I exercise? What's in it for me? I don't know what your topic is, or I know your topic's exercise, but in relation to it, it's too vague. So if we changed it to something good, go ahead, Ingrid.
Americans should exercise daily because it not only their bodies at a healthy weight, but also reduces a risk of high blood pressure.
So notice that it's a little more clear and it's a little more focused, so I know that what's going to come into in your paper. Go ahead. So this is a bad thesis statement.
The internet has improved the lives of many.
Now, that's true, but how has it? Again, this is one that's too vague. Can we see a good one, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
The internet serves as a means of quickly connecting people across the globe, fostering friendship as an exchange of ideas that wouldn't have occurred without it.
So now I know from your thesis statement, when you talk about how the internet has improved people's lives, that you're going to talk about making friends online and being able to work on your ideas. You know what we got to do, Ingrid? We're all right.
What, can we please?
No, we're good. Keep going.
Bad. Organ donors should be financially
compensated. That means they should be paid. People who donate their organs, like their livers and things,
should be paid.
So also, this is too vague. Why should they be paid? There's really no reason. If you're volunteering to do it, shouldn't that be enough?
No, because I mean, like.
Well, let's see if the good one has a because.
Good. Given the
grueling, that means it's hard,
surgery and lifelong changes and
they endure
kidney donors should be financially compensated for the act of sacrifice.
Nice job. So this is not yet. So impatient. This is being way more specific because it's talking about kidney donors and it's talking about the surgery and the lifelong changes and their self-sacrifice. So now you have focus and you have some clarity. So let's see the next one, Ingrid. What you got for us? So here is a sample introduction, and this is going to be the sample from your that's in that packet that I posted on Google Classroom. So if you scroll down, or that page, the pages I put on there to page 4, I believe, there is a sample on there. So this is an example of the hook part of it, the first part.
Imagine being 11 or 12 years old. You go to school and play with your friends. Your family is poor, but your parents work hard. Then one day, there is a family emergency, and you are told that you must leave school to work at a short time at a local factory to pay off a debt. When you get there, you're intimidated, harassed, and beaten. Every time you take a break or get a drink of water, your pay is taken away. Soon you realize that you will never pay off your debt. You are a slave to the factory owner.
So now, having this hook, maybe I want to read on and find out how an 11 or 12-year-old has to go work in a factory and be a slave and get beaten and intimidated and harassed. You've got my interest. Not that I approve of beating 11 and 12-year-olds ordinarily.
Good.
Okay. There's a time and place for everything, Ingrid.
Dad?
I'm sorry. All right. So here's a little bit of background information.
Child labor that is work that harms children or keeps them from attending school. Across the world, 215 million children work in
That's agriculture. That's farming.
Agriculture, manufacturing, mining, and other areas.
All right. So we have a little background information. We have a quotation. We have a statistic. And now we're going to get the thesis statement. It's going to identify and define the topic.
Because children work hard at conditions that are illegal, dangerous,
word's exploitative.
And exploitative child labor should be ended.
That means that exploitative means the adults take advantage of them. The kids do the work and the adults keep the money.
That's what happens in some shows.
Yep. That's what happens with most workers. But again, that goes back to you all, when you get older, starting the revolution, overthrowing our economic system.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. So that should get you through what you need this week, apart from a list of the main ideas in the body. So you should have at least two. It should inform your audience about different aspects of the topic and share some interesting facts. Go into some unknown details. And you may just reflect some common knowledge, but here's where you provide clarity. So these are the details and descriptions. And the most important parts are the details, the examples, and the explanation. For this week, I only need the list. So you're going to say, if you have two main ideas, you're going to give me a list with two things. So one, like if you're going to talk about workers being exploited, you might talk about child labor in the United States in one, and you might talk about the types of work that most child laborers do in your other one. Anyway, the example that I included in the packet will give you an excellent model for that. And so here's an example from that. This is a paragraph that's out of your essay. Do you want to read all that?
Sure.
All right, go ahead, my friend.
Around the world and throughout history, the children of poor families have had to work hard to try and help support their families. Throughout difficult times, child labor became extremely widespread during
the Industrial Revolution. You know what they talked about last week in social studies?
No.
They did a web quest on Industrial Revolution.
Dang.
They're all experts on it.
Good.
At least the 7 of them who did it.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry. You were right here. Children were.
Okay, so you guys know this. Okay. Children were small enough to fit into small factory spaces to work hard from the small parts of machines. They were also easy to frighten and intimidate. Factory owners paid them less and forced them to work long hours in dangerous conditions. Although children have always worked and been hired out as workers and
apprentices,
reformers began to fit for better conditions for all workers, including children.
An apprentice is someone who works for somebody and they teach them how to do stuff. So like if I work and I'm a carpenter and I know how to build things out of wood, and then I take you on as an apprentice, I don't really pay you, but I teach you how to be a carpenter.
You're never doing that.
Building things out of wood or making you work without paying you?
Making you.
Okay. All right. So, again, this is an example of what a body paragraph might look like. But for this week, I don't need the full body paragraph. I need the full introduction and I need a list of what's going to be in the body. So, you're looking at a paragraph and a list of two things. Make sure you identify the type of writing that you're doing, and that's on the with the list of prompts and the prompt that you're covering. So, type of informative writing, the prompt you're going to be writing to, your introduction, which includes a hook, background information, and a thesis statement, and finally, just a list of your 2 or 3 main ideas. So, as we have been saying every week,
That priest thing,
says stay safe, be well. You read all that, and then you're going to mess up stay safe, be well.
Sorry.
Ingrid, you did a fantastic job. So we'll let the kids go out with a little bit of music. You're going to remind them to wash their hands. Leave it alone.
Wash your hands, or then you're gonna get corona and you're gonna go to the hospital.
I said leave it alone, you weirdo.
Sorry, I didn't touch it.
Then why is it beeping?
I don't know.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.